The movie begins in 1944. Indiana Jones and archaeologist Basil Shaw searched for the Holy Lance at Nuremberg Castle. Jones was captured by Nazis and taken to their colonel when he refused to talk. Astronomer Jürgen Falla showed the Holy Lance to the colonel, who ordered it taken to a train, ignoring Falla's warnings. Nazis surrounded Jones in a room, preparing to hang him. Suddenly, an aerial bomb crashed through the floor and exploded. Jones barely escaped falling to his death. Afterward, he disguised himself as a Nazi and chased the train in a stolen car. In a scuffle, he knocked out the driver but was joined by two Nazis. Jones steered toward the train and fought off pursuing Nazis. He leapt onto the train and searched for the Holy Lance, only to discover it was a fake. On the train, Basil was captured and tortured by the colonel, who threatened his family. Basil revealed their mission to find the Holy Lance. Falla intervened, informing the colonel the lance was fake but revealing he had found part of the Archimedes dial. The colonel learned Jones was aboard and prepared to capture him. Jones rescued Basil, knocked out Falla, and took the Archimedes dial. They fought with the colonel on the train's roof. Basil shot the colonel to protect them. Jones and Basil escaped Falla by throwing him half of the dial. Later, they jumped off the train to safety before it was bombed. Years later, in 1969 New York City, Jones retired as a professor. At his retirement party, he went to a bar where he was followed by a woman. To his surprise, it was Helena Shaw, his goddaughter, whom he had not seen in years. They caught up, and Jones learned Helena had become an archaeologist. Helena mentioned her father had researched the Archimedes dial but never found it before he passed away. Helena explained that her father Basil became obsessed with researching the dial, nearly driving him mad. She wanted to continue his work and sought Jones's help, believing only he could unravel its secrets. They returned to the college to search its archives. Unbeknownst to Helena, Agent Mason from a CIA group allied with Falla, who survived the Nazi train incident and now works under a new identity at NASA, followed her with Falla's henchmen. Inside the college, Falla's men hunted for Helena and Jones. They killed a faculty member and another staff member. Jones and Helena found half of the dial in the archives. Jones grew suspicious when he realized Helena knew he had not destroyed the dial as promised to Basil. He started questioning Helena, who grew increasingly nervous. Just as Agent Mason and her henchmen arrived, Helena grabbed the dial half and fled, locking Jones in. She apologized before escaping alone. Agent Mason's group chased Helena across rooftops. Meanwhile, Jones tried to escape but was captured by Mason and her men. They drove through a crowded area with a parade. Jones discovered Helena was selling illegal antiquities and had used him to steal the dial half for the black market. Agent Mason interrogated Jones, but he insisted he had no part in Helena's scheme. He was only her godfather. Moments later, they ran into trouble and realized they could not continue driving, so they decided to walk through the large crowd, holding on to Jones. Jones escaped on a horse, and the henchmen stole cars to chase him. When he got cornered, he rode the horse through the subway and went to the next station. He jumped off the horse and got on a train just before it closed, successfully escaping Agent Mason and Falla's henchmen. Agent Mason called Falla and reported what happened. Falla was shocked to learn that Helena Shaw was Indiana Jones's goddaughter. Meanwhile, Jones reached out to his old friend Salah, a cab driver, to take him to the airport. Jones traveled to Tangier, where the auction was taking place, to disrupt the auction and get the dial half back from Helena. When he arrived, Helena was already trying to sell the dial half. Falla showed up, surprising Jones, who asked if Falla was still a Nazi, causing Helena to choke on her drink. Falla introduced himself as Professor Schmidt. Helena ignored them and continued the auction. Jones pulled the tablecloth to grab the dial half, causing chaos. Helena took the bag from Jones and gave it to her sidekick, Teddy Kumar. But Falla managed to get the bag from Teddy and left. After Falla was gone, Jones, Helena, and Teddy got into trouble and had to escape together, leading to them chasing each other while escaping the gang chasing Helena and Teddy. In the end, they decided to work together to get the dial half back from Falla. Meanwhile, inside the helicopter with Falla's group, Agent Mason started to realize that Falla, or Smith as she knew him, had his own plans and was up to no good. One of Mason's men announced that they were landing in Spain before heading back to Alabama. Falla begged Agent Mason to lend him a boat to go to the Mediterranean, but she refused. This led to Falla's men attacking Mason and her team. Clabber shot Mason, and before she died, Falla revealed his true identity to her. Jones, Helena, and Teddy traveled together, trying to get to the Graffito before the Nazis. They went to Casablanca, then flew to Italy, and from there traveled to Athens. In Athens, Jones met up with his friend Ronaldo, a deep-sea diver. On the boat, Jones and Helena talked about where the dial was found. When Basil was alive, he had tracked down an old sponge diver who found the dial and learned it was from a wrecked Roman ship 20 meters under the sea. They planned to look for the graffito tablet there, which would lead them to the other half of the dial. Later that night, Helena and Jones talked about Basil and their beliefs. Helena learned that Jones had separated from his wife Marion after their son Mutt died in the Vietnam War. The next day, they reached the Aegean Sea where the wrecked ship was located. With the help of Ronaldo and his men, Jones and Helena dived down to get the other half of the dial. When they reached the wrecked ship, it was filled with sea creatures, and they had a hard time finding the graffito. After much struggle, they finally retrieved it and resurfaced, only to find that the Nazis were already on their ship waiting for them. They could not do anything but sit back and watch as Fala opened the chest containing the graffito tablet. The graffito had cryptic directions that would lead to the other half of the dial, which Fala could not understand, so he asked Jones to read it. When Jones did not do anything, Fala killed Ronaldo. Helena then offered to decipher the code for Fala in exchange for money. Jones felt betrayed as he watched Helena receive diamonds from Fala. Helena read the graffito tablet and realized it was actually directions to Archimedes' tomb. She explained the meaning of the cryptic message while walking around the room to distract the Nazis from realizing she was plotting something. She discreetly lit a stick of dynamite and threw it towards Fala. Jones grabbed the graffito, and the three of them, Jones, Helena, and Teddy, rushed to the other boat and left. The dynamite exploded on the Nazis' boat, preventing them from leaving immediately. Jones observed the tablet and saw that it was a Polybius square made of wax and wood, which was unusually heavy. Jones poured alcohol on the tablet and set it on fire. They watched as the tablet melted, revealing ancient gold from the Nile. Jones deciphered the code, which showed them the directions to the cave of Dionysus in Sicily. They traveled to Sicily and waited around for a while. Teddy, disappointed that they could not sell the ancient gold, decided to steal some money from a boy to buy ice cream. As he walked around, he saw a car parked beside the boat and approached it, only to find Fala waiting for him at the bottom of the stairs. He tried to run but was captured by one of Fala's men. Jones was looking for Teddy when he saw the Nazis taking him. He found Helena, and the two of them went up the hill to the cave of Dionysus. They walked into the cave and panicked when they saw a lot of centipedes on the walls and on their clothes. They reached a labyrinthine cavern where they found Archimedes' tomb. There, they discovered the other half of the dial on top of Archimedes' skeleton. Helena squatted down beside the tomb and saw that the frieze depicted a phoenix with propellers. Then Jones noticed that Archimedes' skeleton was wearing a wristwatch, which was strange because watches were created a millennium after Archimedes died. They realized that Archimedes himself used the dial to time travel. Fala and his men arrived, having followed them using Teddy. They cornered Jones and Helena, who had no choice but to let Fala take the dial half from them. Fala connected the two halves of the dial together and took the clock part of the pendant watch, placing it in the middle of the dial. Teddy, who managed to escape from the Nazis, suddenly attacked them. Helena brought Teddy out of the cave while Jones stayed behind. Jones got shot, and Fala's men took him with them in a van. Fala explained that they would fly into the eye of a storm and travel back to August 20, 1939, to change the outcome of the war and win. Meanwhile, Helena and Teddy followed them to an airfield. The Nazis flew a plane, and Helena told Teddy to steal a plane and fly it while she chased down the Nazis' plane on a bike and reached it before it took off. Inside the plane, Jones blurted out that Archimedes did not know about continental drift, which meant the Nazis were using coordinates that might have shifted over 2,000 years. Clapper punched Jones to shut him up. As the plane reached the eye of the storm, the countdown started, and Jones warned Fala that his calculations were wrong. While Jones did not know where they were going, he was sure it was not 1939. Scared, Fala ordered the pilot to turn around, but it was too late, they had already traveled through time. For a moment, Fala thought they had reached 1939, but he quickly realized they had actually gone back to a war in 214 BC. Helena stepped out of her hiding place and caused Fala's men to fall out of the plane, but one of them managed to grab hold of her legs. Jones saw her and shot the man holding on to Helena's legs. He then took a parachute that Fala tried to steal from him. Helena shot Fala, and Jones put on the parachute. Jones climbed down so Helena could hold on to him, and they both left the damaged plane. Clapper fired at the angry Romans below, stirring up tension. Fala watched as chaos ensued on the ground. A local who knew about the dial discovered Fala's crashed plane. Finding Fala's body, he took his wristwatch and received the dial from his servant. Jones and Helena landed amidst the war. Despite the turmoil, Jones was captivated by witnessing history firsthand. He expressed a desire to stay, having studied history for so long. Helena disagreed, knowing Jones was injured and needed medical attention. Teddy, who had landed nearby, stood ready to assist. Suddenly, a Roman warrior approached to attack but was swiftly shot down by an arrow. Jones and Helena encountered Archimedes, bringing Jones great joy. Archimedes showed them the dial, explaining their destined meeting. Jones realized Archimedes created it to aid in war. Jones wanted to stay, but Helena insisted their enemies had already fled, making help unnecessary. She persuaded Jones to return to 1969. Helena knocked him out, and when Jones awoke, he was back in 1969. Helena and Teddy were there, both well. Shortly after, Marion arrived, followed by Salah and his children. Seeing Jones and Marion together, everyone left them alone. Jones and Marion reunited warmly. Despite not staying with Archimedes, Jones was glad to be back in 1969, especially with Marion by his side, and the movie ends here. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more film recaps.